Hi, it's Peter Temple for Sunday, June the 26th, and this is the market report for Monday, June the 27th. Well, I totally missed Brexit, or the announcement anyway. I was on a plane. Thank you, Air Canada, for about a 7 hour delay. It certainly felt like that. It was probably a little bit less, but I ended up somewhere over central Canada and got the news once I got down. But single events, I've never seen single events actually change the trend. They do have an effect on a short term, but I'm going to start with the New York Stock Exchange for that particular reason, is that I'm looking at it tonight and going, well, I'm not really seeing anything that scares me all that much and tells me that we've missed anything. So what we had here on the New York Stock Exchange, this is about the 62% retrace mark without going to a larger chart. This is just an hourly chart. And I just wanted to show you the top here. I made the comment on Friday that I thought this had double topped, but actually it didn't. And if you go here and take a good look at it, you would find that it missed it by a few dollars, which going by an Elliott from an Elliott wave perspective, it actually has to get there. So 638, 648 is about $10 a miss. So we'll see whether this goes up 62%. An Elliott wave, to have an actual trend change, you have to have 5 waves down, which this is not. We could have an exhaustion gap here, but looking at this, I would say because we missed the top and this is not clear, I think we're probably going back up to the top one more time. We'll see. The alternative is if this goes up 38% and comes down in a 5th wave, that would change everything. But right now, it looks, based on where it's at, because it came down to this previous, we'll call this a previous 4th wave. The actual 4th wave, I think, is here, and there's another one here. So it's a little bit questionable as to what we're going to do next. But if I look at the RSI, this down here, I left it up for this reason. There's quite a divergence, and this tells me that we're going back up. So that's the big picture as far as I'm concerned. And let's move on to the S&P 500. I'm not going to do an awful lot of charts tonight because I really question what the next move is, not the direction. I believe we're going up. I just don't know what we're going to get here for a pattern. This opens up the possibility of 5 waves up. We're really kind of starting over here, except this is 3 waves. So we may actually come down to this previous 4th wave here and make it 10,117, or we may go up 38% and come down, or what I think we're going to do is start heading back up to the top, and it's going to take another week or so, or even 2 to get there. We're looking at some major cycle turns coming up, but we did not have a major cycle turn on Thursday, Friday, and so that's what I'm looking for to coincide with an actual top. So I would say, you can do your own thing, but from what I'm looking at, I think we're looking at for a little more patience. And that's also because, and I'm going to look at a couple of currencies tonight, the currencies have still not finished their pattern, and the dollar, the US dollar, because it's the reserve currency, is still in charge. I mean, that's just the way it is. When it starts to move in the right direction, which is up, then we're going to see everything else come down. And so that's what I'm looking for. Here is an hourly chart of the S&P 500. Now, folks, I'm not even going to guess what we're doing here. This is just one of those patterns that could be a number of things. We have an ABC up here, which we've had for a while. We've got an ABC down. You can see that I put in a couple of trend lines on the top and the bottom here, which leads me to say that this could be an expanding ending diagonal, a very large one. And that means that we could head up here in 3 waves to a top somewhere around 2130, 2134 is sort of the top, and we could then just come down, and that would finish this wave. But it means we've also got to come down to this lower trend line first, and so there's quite a few options. We also could come down to this previous 4th wave here, which then means we could go up in 5 waves, except I don't know what this pattern would end up being. So right now, this looks to me like we could have an expanding ending diagonal forming. That would make this all work, and it means we've got one more high up to the top. But because we've got 3 waves down here, this is a very small second. I would say this is an ABC. That means we don't have 5 down anywhere. And this certainly isn't 5 down, so this is a bit of a mess, and at least we don't have a gap here. So I'm a little bit open to see what happens on sort of Monday-ish, Monday into Tuesday. I also don't see a big cycle turn coming for a short little while anyway. There's one towards the end of this month, and if you go and look at Andy Pancholi's um, Andy Pancholi's June expose that is on my site, he takes you for a run through the June document. You'll actually see that we have a major cycle turn on the 29th, I think it is. And then there's some other ones coming up in July. So, and there's some major ones coming up in July. So I think we've got a little longer to go, and I think that's what's happening in the S&P 500. Let's just go look at a couple of currencies. Here is the daily chart of the euro US dollar. And this changed on Thursday, Friday because we had a drop down below this trend line. Now, I had said a couple of weeks ago that this triangle, because it was not symmetrical, did not look good to me. Usually I would want it to be a triangle like this, and I said that if it drops below here, I'm going to move the trend line, and that's what I did. So this makes it look an awful lot better in terms of being much more symmetrical. It really should be going horizontally sideways here. So this puts us again at the bottom of this D wave with an E wave to go. And so that's where we're sitting. We still have this wave up to go. This would be the last one once it gets pretty close to the top. And sometimes it doesn't actually make the top. But I would expect it to get closer than what we did here. And in actual fact, I think it's actually going to get to the top. So we'll just have to see what happens there. But until this goes up and tops, I think the US market is not going to head down. And so the two of these seem to be aligned. We've been here for, well, since we actually topped in the US market. This was the top of the US market. So if you look at these patterns, this has been going sideways while the US market has been going virtually sideways. And so I'm expecting this turn again to happen when the US market turns. So another week, 2 weeks perhaps, something like that. It has to get back up to the top. It could be shorter. I just don't know. There's some cycle turns coming up, and Andy Pancholi's pretty good in terms of, he's at 99.9% as far as I'm concerned in terms of his cycle turns. So we're just waiting for everything to align. So that's my look at the the euro US dollar. I'm going to look at the Canadian dollar as one last chart to look at this weekend. Here's the 4-hour chart of the US dollar, Canadian dollar, and this one has been a tough one to figure out in terms of where it's going. I know that the ultimate ending is here with a double bottom at 1.246 approximately. Getting there has been the challenge because we've ended up now doing a triangle, and here it is. We finished that off with the little Brexit exit, which took us up to this point here, the E point, and it actually exceeded it, which happens with a lot of E points on triangles. They go just beyond it and then turn around. So I'm expecting, we've come down and done one wave down and a second wave up. I'm expecting us to turn and to start right down here starting on actually Sunday in a few hours. That's what I would expect to happen. How long it's going to take us to get there, I don't know. This would be the same direction as the euro because this is US dollar. This is an upside down chart because of the configuration of the US dollar here first. So as the euro goes up and completes its E wave, this wave will come down to complete its double bottom, and I would see the US indices turning over there. So we've got some bellwethers that are telling us when things are going to happen. In the meantime, I think we've got a little bit more time before this entire set of markets turns over, and that will be the third wave down in the US indices, cash and futures. We just have to hold on a little longer till then. So if you are out there trading, it is not a market that I would suggest being in, but if you're doing it, be very careful. There's much better times coming up. Take care out there.